This is the Linear Algebra Lectures video series. You can find more information about this video as well as a link to the written textbook in the description below. Stick around to the end of the video to learn more about this video series and the associated teaching and learning tools I've created for it. Lecture 6, Vectors. Our objectives for this lecture are to understand the definition of a vector and a column vector, work with vectors in Rn and perform operations with vectors, and to understand geometric representations of vectors in 2 and 3 dimensions. So a vector is an ordered list of numbers, which we can write as an ordered n-tuple, which is parentheses with numbers separated by commas. But in this course, we typically represent a vector using a column vector, which looks like a matrix with a single column. The numbers in the vector are called the components, or the entries of the vector. We'll use the notation Rn, so the r that represents the set of real numbers, and then the exponent n, to represent the set of all vectors with n entries. For now, we'll focus on R2, those are vectors with 2 entries, but the operations that we're going to discuss can be extended to vectors with any number of entries. Now, when we're writing vectors in print, you'll typically see them represented by boldface lowercase letters, and we'll use the letters U, V, W, etc., but we can use any letter of the alphabet. But when we're writing vectors by hand, you'll see us write an arrow over a letter, since we can't really write boldface letters by hand. We'll call this a vector hat, and it's important that we use that notation to distinguish vector quantities from non-vector quantities. We'll use the word scalar to represent a real number, and again use that to distinguish a real number from a vector. Our vector operations are that we could add 2 vectors, and so for example, if we take the vector -1, 2 and add it to the vector 5, 0, we add the first entries to get -1 plus 5 equals 4, and add the second entries to get 2 plus 0 equals 2. We can also multiply a vector by a scalar. And so, for example, we can take the vector -1, 2 and multiply it by the scalar 3. To do that, we multiply both entries by 3 to get the result -3, 6. We want to distinguish points and vectors. We can perform operations on vectors, but not on points. One thing that we specifically can't do yet is multiply one vector by another vector. So that's something that we will talk about eventually later in the course, but for right now, the only multiplication that we can do involving vectors is scalar multiplication, a scalar, a real number, multiplied by a vector. What about division? Well, we can think of dividing a vector by a scalar, but it's more convenient and more useful to instead think of it as multiplying by the reciprocal of that scalar. So for example, if we wanted to take the vector -3, 8 and divide it by 4, what we're really doing is multiplying that vector by 1/4, and we get the result -3/4, 2. Here are our general definitions of our vector operations. We say that these operations are performed component-wise or entry-wise because the 2 entries of the vector don't interact with each other. If we want to add the vectors u and v, where u is the vector u1, u2, and v is the vector v1, v2, then we just add the first entries and then we add the second entries. If we want to multiply the vector u by a scalar c, we just multiply each entry by c. Here's some more examples where we work out some results of vector operations. So we're given definitions of vectors u, v, and w, and we're asked to compute various vector quantities. For the first part, we're asked to compute 3u. And again, these operations are performed entry-wise. To multiply 3 times u, we multiply each entry of u by 3, and in this case we get the result -3, 9. Next, we're asked to compute 2v plus 3w. So first we'll compute 2v and 3w separately. That gives us the results 0, 12 and 12, -15 respectively. And then we add those two results. 0 plus 12 is 12, 12 plus -15 is -3, so the whole thing results in 12, -3. Finally, we're asked to compute u minus 5v plus 4w. Again, we'll compute the scalar multiplications first, so 5v works out to be 0, 30, 4w works out to be 16, -20, and then we add and subtract, again doing everything entry-wise, and end up with a result 15, -47. We talked in an earlier lecture about how to row-reduce matrices using technology. What about vector operations? Well, if we go back to Wolfram, we can compute vector operations by defining a vector as a list of numbers. Again, in Wolfram, lists are defined by curly braces and numbers separated by commas. So if we define the vectors u and v here, then in Wolfram we can type in expression like 2u minus 3v and get the result that we want. A special vector is the 0 vector. So in print, we'll write that as a boldface 0. If we're writing by hand, we'll write 0 with an arrow hat. And that's just the vector where every entry is 0. Again, for right now, we're focusing on vectors with 2 entries, and so the 0 vector in this case is 0, 0. The 0 vector has a couple of nice properties. If we add the 0 vector to any other vector, then we get that other vector. And if we multiply the 0 vector by any scalar, we just get back the 0 vector. Now let's start thinking about the geometry of vectors. Typically, we're going to visualize a vector with entries a, b as an arrow from the origin 0, 0 to the point ab. Notice the distinction we're drawing between a point, which we write as an ordered pair surrounded by parentheses, and a vector, which we write as a column surrounded by square brackets. The originating point of the vector is the tail, and the ending point is the head. And we can draw that same vector in any position as long as its direction and length are preserved. Let's take a look at this example. We have the vector v, which is the vector -5, 4. Here we've drawn it in standard position with its tail at 0, 0 and its head at the point -5, 4. But we could have drawn this vector in any position. For example, we could draw it with its tail at 3, 2 and its head at -2, 6. Notice that in this position, the length and the direction are the same. We can visualize adding two vectors with something called the parallelogram rule. To add the vectors here, so the blue vector and the green vector added together, we draw a parallelogram, two of whose sides are the vectors u and v. We draw another copy of u pointing from the head of v, and we draw another copy of v pointing from the head of u. This creates a parallelogram, and the diagonal of that parallelogram that also has its tail at the origin is the sum u plus v. Let's use some numbers here. Here we see that the vector u is the vector 2, -4, the vector v is 3, 5, and we can visualize, by counting boxes on this grid, that the purple vector is the vector 5, 1. We can also compute, using the operations that we talked about earlier in this lecture, that u plus v is indeed the vector 5, 1. How do we visualize scalar multiplication? Well, we can visualize that as either stretching or shrinking a vector, depending on the value of the scalar itself. Here we have a vector u on the left, and the vector 2u on the right, which points in the same direction as u, but is twice as long. If instead we had multiplied u by the scalar 0.5, then again it still points in the same direction, but now it's half as long as the original vector u. If we multiply by a negative scalar, then in addition to stretching or shrinking the vector, the result points in the opposite direction from the original vector. When we have vectors with larger numbers of entries, the operations are still performed component-wise. If we want to add two vectors in Rn, where n is a number that is possibly greater than 2, then we still do that by adding the corresponding components. We can also apply the same visualizations that we've seen in R2 to R3, but things are harder to visualize in 4 or more dimensions. Keep in mind that we can't add two vectors if they contain different numbers of entries. So if we had a vector 1, 2 and a vector 3, 4, 5, those vectors have different numbers of entries. The first vector has 2 entries, the second vector has 3 entries, so we simply cannot add those two vectors. We say that that sum is undefined. Typically, when you're asked to compute vector operations, all of the vectors in your problem will have the same number of entries, so this isn't something that you're going to usually have to worry about. Let's do a few more examples. So here we have defined u, v, and w, and we're asked to compute various different vector expressions. For the first one, 1/2 u, we're multiplying this vector u by the scalar 1/2, so we multiply each entry by 1/2 and get the result 1/2, -1, -3/2. For part b, we're asked to compute 2 times the quantity v minus w, and we apply our regular PEMDAS rules. We compute the expression inside the parentheses, v minus w is the vector 2, 2, 4, and then we multiply by the scalar 2 to get the final result 4, 4, 8. Finally, to compute 3u minus 4 times the quantity v plus 2w, again we apply PEMDAS. This means that we need to compute the expression inside our parentheses first. So the first thing we need to do is multiply 2 times w and then add v plus 2w. That gives us the result -4, 5, 4 from the parentheses. And then we have to compute 3u minus 4 times that result. And the final answer here is 19, -26, -25. The vector operations have several nice algebraic properties, which you see listed here. I'm not going to read through all of them, but what we want to notice here is that these properties match up with properties of our normal operations that we do on numbers. So you see the distributive rule, you see additive identities, commutativity, associativity. So the end result of this is that we can use our algebraic intuition when it comes to performing vector operations. We don't have to worry about trying to follow our normal algebra rules and end up getting the wrong answer because the vector operations might not follow those rules. These properties tell us that those vector operations do follow our common algebra rules that we already know. This is important to point out because later in this course we're going to see algebraic operations involving vectors and matrices that don't necessarily follow all of our normal algebraic rules. Thanks for watching this video lecture. You can find links to the other videos in this series and to the written textbook in the description below. If you're an instructor, you can contact me for more information about the over 300 online linear algebra homework problems that I've created for the free My Open Math platform.